to be debating Milo. I haven't heard anything about that lately. So the answer is no, I won't be debating Milo. The reason I won't be debating Milo is because he's a coward. And the reason he's a coward is because 3 weeks ago, first of all, somebody, I think it was Dave Rubin plus Steven Crowder, they both offered to host a debate between me and Milo on the alt-right and Donald Trump. And Milo went totally silent. And then he blamed Breitbart News for telling him not to do it. A couple weeks later, he then said, fine, I'm willing to do it now. And he emailed me, and he emailed Dave Rubin, and he emailed all the people involved, and he said, let's set this up. And within an hour, I had my assistant email back times, right? And he said within the next couple of weeks. No response. Nothing. Right? He says, I'll get back to you. No response. For a week. For 2 weeks. For 3 weeks, right? And then I email him again, last week and a half ago, and I said, okay, well, I'm holding these dates open, and I'm not going to keep holding dates open, so are we doing this or not? No response. No response because he's chicken. Because he's chicken poop. Because he is a coward. He's a coward, he's an intellectual coward. It's very easy to go on campus and fight against Trigglypuff social justice warriors with an IQ of 7. It's really not difficult. And it's also really not difficult to lie to college students about what is good and true because they haven't studied the issues. It's also not difficult to gain attention by doing silly stunts. And they're fun. I watch them. They're fun. But when you do those things and you then spoon feed on top of it alt-right white nationalism and pander to some of the worst people on earth and encourage college students to do the same, it's really terrible. I don't have to reiterate my criticisms of Milo here. Suffice this to say, he's intellectually shallow. The offer's off the table. I don't waste my time holding dates open for my intellectual inferiors who are too cowardly to debate me, to initiate conversations, then blame me for backing out of the debate that they back out of because they have no stones.
No, I'm gonna. You want to what? No, people asked me about this at Texas Tech. This is a very, this is a very weird situation that happened, right? I didn't reply to an email for 2 weeks because I'm busy and I was doing stuff like this. No, wait, I'm not bullshitting it. I'm not bullshitting it. I think my inbox has about 30,000 unread emails at the moment. I didn't reply for 2 weeks, as I very often don't. And then I hear that Ben has published a video saying I'm a chicken and I won't debate him, which I never said. We hadn't fixed a date yet. I wonder whether it's because did he decide he didn't want to do it in the end or whatever, but the invitation is open. Bring it, Ben. An end to pointless. Well, maybe I'll bring Ben and Dave Rubin, and maybe we'll start. We'll see.
In different things like the Reddits and the 4chans and those guys?
Reddit and 4chan. Because I feel like they kind of started almost like a political revolution online of getting rid of PC, but I just wanted to see what you thought about them.
I mean, I think they're mostly losers who sit in their mother's basements and smoke pot and masturbate. So I think that my biggest problem with this group of people is that there is again, I've spent my entire career fighting against political correctness, right? I'm the guy who goes to public high schools with poor kids and says to the poor kids, the reason your parents are permanently poor is because they're bad with money and made bad decisions. Don't make those decisions and you'll do better. Right? That's politically incorrect, and that'll get you shut down by the high school principal, right? Which happened. That's political incorrectness. It is not political incorrectness to shout cuck at people. Right? You're not actually changing anything. I'm sorry, just shouting cuck at people doesn't make the world a better place. It just means that you're an asshole. Yeah. So the idea that my big problem with this is that there's a whole generation of young people who are falling into the trap of thinking they're principled by saying stupid things, and not just saying stupid things, right? Because cuck is just a silly thing, but people who are using the N-word in chat rooms because they think, I'm violating some sort of societal taboo, and that makes me cool. Yeah, well, that's not going to be so cool when it turns out your employer can search you, and now you can't get a job. Right? It's not going to be so cool when you fall into this trap of associating with all these folks, and it turns out that it's on your Facebook page. It's all fun and games until you actually have to live in the real society where the left is willing to go after people. Now, I don't think the left should go after people for this sort of stuff because I would prefer to live in a society where we can all say whatever we want, but I don't think that you saying these things promotes that because I don't think it's important that we have a society where you say the N-word. I think it is important that you have a society where you can point out that we're not disproportionately sending black people to prison. We're sending black people to prison in precisely the proportions they're committing crimes. I think that's more important than you shouting cuck or the N-word. Right? And this is my big problem with as you know, I have this long running debate now with Milo Yiannopoulous. This is my big problem with Milo and his entire movement. Is I think that Milo is not conservative. I don't think he knows anything about conservatism. I don't think he cares about the Constitution. He says this openly. I think that Milo cares about being a provocateur. And I'm sorry, a provocateur generation is only valuable in standing for things that are worthwhile. It is not, being a provocateur just for the sake of being a provocateur is worthless. Provoke in the name of something real and decent, and then I'll stand with you. Provoke in the name of just being a provocateur because you're violating taboos and you're a waste of my time.
Thank you.
In the past, you've expressed disapproval at Twitter's decision to ban Milo Yiannopoulous'
Yes.
account. Keeping this in mind, do you believe that Simon & Schuster made the correct decision in canceling Yiannopoulous' book deal over his most recent scandal? And do you believe that a company should prioritize their shareholders in making a decision to protect their profits, or should they risk their business endeavors to promote free speech for people like Yiannopoulous?
Okay, so I don't think that publishers have an obligation to print everybody's book. As somebody who's submitted many book proposals over many years, I don't think the publishers have an obligation to promote anybody's book if they feel they're going to lose money on it. As far as Twitter claims to be, its own sort of claim is that it's sort of a free speech haven, and so it seems to define its central principles wrongly by banning people. And then so, and let me say for the record that as anybody who has watched me for the past year knows, I am no fan of Milo's. I have not been a fan of Milo's. I find Milo appalling, and I have for well over a year. I've stayed silent on this latest stuff because, honestly, you don't kick a guy while he's down. But the fact is that Milo, what's happened with Milo actually says less about Milo than it does about the conservative movement that I find troubling, right? I think that, just to give you a few examples of stuff that Milo's done over the past year, in a few weeks ago, he suggested to a Muslim girl in an audience that she shouldn't be wearing a hijab in America. As a guy who wears a funny hat every day of the week, I think that's awful. Right? Milo is somebody who said that he called a Jewish journalist from BuzzFeed a thick as what was it? It was a typical example of the sort of thick as pig shit media Jew. Right? Milo on the day of my child's birth sent me a meme of a black baby suggesting my kid was half black because I'm a cuck because I'm not sufficiently supportive of Donald Trump. He's talked about how the alt-right is this wondrous milieu of intellectual decency and honesty, full of brilliant people, while openly acknowledging that the alt-right actually says that Western civilization and ethnicity are inherently connected. Right? He did all of this before all this stuff came down. So my only disappointment on all of this stuff is that I think that conservatives should have said this is all bad stuff a long time ago. I don't think that it should have taken tape of Yiannopoulous saying that 30-year-olds having sex with 13-year-olds is great in order for people to say this was not great stuff. So if the only standard on the right is we'll accept anyone who pisses off the left, our only standard is you can't say that it's good for 30-year-olds to have sex with 13-year-olds, I think we can have a little bit higher standards.
Thank you.